This is from a guy named Jeffrey Sterling. It was published in CommonDreams about a week ago. The CIA whistleblower reflects on the persecution of Julian Assange. This dude worked for the CIA, so we're going to take some of what he says with a grain to a point. Okay? But it's really important as perspective. Why? Because he was a CIA whistleblower. He actually spent time, and you'll hear exactly why in a minute. Okay. This affront to accountability, press freedom, and freedom of speech is on stage for the entire world to see, yet I wonder who's paying attention. Yeah. It's difficult to talk about happenings in the world other than the continued appalling Russian invasion of Ukraine again, and the recent mass shootings in Buffalo, Uvalde, Chicagoland, and elsewhere. Then there's a Supreme Court, which continues down a judicial road of eroding personal rights and towing the Conservative Party line. I don't want to take attention away from these outrages. However, the shadow of one tragedy is not dispelled by the light of another. I continue to have a passion to shed light on and right the wrongs of the Espionage Act and how the United States government is using it to target not only whistleblowers, but also anyone who dares reveal its transgressions and illegalities. I was extremely honored to participate in the Belmarsh Tribunal, which, in addition to calling for the closure of Guantanamo Bay, also decried the international disgrace that is the potential extradition of Julian Assange. This affront to accountability, press freedom, and freedom of speech is on stage for the entire world to see, yet I wonder who is paying attention, like he said before.
Yep.
What has been happening to Assange is the very definition of complicity between two countries to jointly undermine accountability and freedom of speech. Assange has been held since April 2019 in Belmarsh Prison, April 11th as a matter of fact, which is what many call the United Kingdom's version of our Supermax. He's been held in solitary confinement for every moment of every day at Belmarsh, while the U.S. makes an incredible effort to have him extradited to face charges of violating the Espionage Act. The UK courts have been all too obliging by issuing rulings with no support in truth that Assange can and should be extradited, and in a final blow to demonstrate its willingness to be the puppet government that the U.S. needs to continue its Espionage Act campaign of terror. On June 17th, Priti Patel, the UK Home Secretary, certified Assange's extradition, clearing the way for Assange to be turned over to the United States. Assange is appealing, but given UK reticence, it's only a matter of time until he will find himself, as Sterling did, in the Alexandria jail, being charged with violating the Espionage Act.
Yep.
What I found quite disturbing is that the UK courts and the Home Secretary have been all too willing to play the dutiful puppets to their U.S. handlers. When I was in CIA, a handler was the person who manages every aspect of an asset's life that's necessary and helpful for the purpose of collecting intelligence. Sometimes it's necessary for a handler to be nebulous or downright lie to an asset to keep focus on the objective. If the handler gets what he wants, that's all that matters. The U.S. has handled the UK legal system and government officials very astutely. The UK has believed the lies being championed by the U.S., ranging from characterizing Assange as a national security threat and spy to touting a safe and supportive environment Assange will face in U.S. prisons. Yet the real purpose is to prosecute Assange under the Espionage Act. The real purpose is to prosecute Assange under the Espionage Act for political and vengeful reasons. UK courts have found every reason not to challenge the merits of the U.S. case against Assange, and the UK government has followed suit. The U.S. handling of the UK should be considered the epitome of utilizing sources and methods to achieve an objective without the asset knowing what is actually being accomplished. But the UK doesn't exactly have clean hands in this travesty. Hell no. The UK version of the Espionage Act is the Official Secrets Act, enacted in 1911, which also deals with ostensibly protecting state secrets. The very UK official who signed off on Assange's extradition has proposed sweeping new reforms which prescribe harsher punishments for journalists and their sources. Under the reforms, the UK government will, quote, not consider that there is necessarily a distinction in severity between espionage and the most serious unauthorized disclosures, unquote. That is really frightening. Just like the Espionage, just unreal. Just like the Espionage Act, complete deference is given to the government to define what is considered serious disclosures. Just like the 1917 American version, the original objective was to fight espionage designed to assist the country's foreign enemies. Over time, both acts have evolved as tools to quash. One must wonder which of the countries came up with the idea to use either law to hide government transgressions by silencing whistleblowers. Seems the US and UK are feeding off one another's ever-expanding objective to not be held accountable for its illegal actions by feigning imagined threats to national security. Indeed, what's been happening to Assange is the very definition of complicity between two countries to jointly undermine accountability and freedom of speech. I would also add, don't forget about Australia. It's actually 3 countries, because his home country is just as complicit, if not more.
Yep.
Sterling's goal with the Project for Accountability of the Roots Action Education Fund has been to shed light on government wrongdoings and illegalities, as well as demand the accountability from those in power. What's happening with Assange is government running amok over and through the law to reach those who would expose the truth. But who should such a call for accountability be directed to? Unfettered power infects from the top down. Joe Biden should not only answer for, but also explain the purpose and intent for seeking to try Julian Assange for breaking a U.S. law. Yet, as a member of the Obama administration that ignited the firestorm that's been the use of the Espionage Act to punish whistleblowers and avoid truth, he's somewhat been expectedly silent. He should not be able to hide. Well, yeah.
He's the guy who definitely made more. Well, Joe and Obama definitely made whistleblowers much more illegal to be, in general. So,
okay. So he should not be able to hide behind any sort of plausible deniability because he was not in charge at the time. And what about Kamala Harris? Kamala. Hasn't she touted a record of supporting protection for whistleblowers? You mean putting
sure
drug offenders in jail?
Yeah, the truancy officer, Kamala,
right,
totally wouldn't have anything bad to do legally.
Seems the weight of power.
Innocent people the death penalty. Sorry, what?
Yeah, it seems the weight of power, lack of accountability, have a debilitating effect on conscience. The same inquiry should be made upon the mainstream media. Their lack of interest and silence on Assange are disturbing. Possibly out of self-preservation, the media are holding on to a misconception that they are not the same as Assange. That Assange is not a reporter. Because he's not, you clown. He's a fucking publisher.
He's a publisher.
Only the arrogance of an egoist would refuse to acknowledge a clear and present danger to press freedom and free speech. That's correct. Maybe what happened during my persecution holds an answer. When the reporter Jim Risen, who's himself now an Intercept shitlib, was in danger of being called to the stand and threatened with jail if he didn't testify, the mainstream media mobilized to protect one of their own. Well, we know why, because it's a blue check. Once the danger was over, so was the interest. Much like in my situation, self-preservation will prevent the media from raising a voice. They should understand that if Assange is extradited and convicted, there will be nothing to stop any reporter anywhere from being charged under the Espionage Act for merely reporting about government wrongdoing. We've been screaming this forever. Misty and I have had extensive conversations about this. Their silence, much to their own eventual detriment, is empowering the continued illegal use of the Espionage Act. But there's been a promising development. Okay, Jeffrey. Representative Rashida Tlaib has proposed Espionage Act reforms that would require the U.S. to provide a specific intent to harm the U.S., allow a defendant to testify about their purpose in revealing information, and create an affirmative defense for the revelations in the public interest, among other reforms. This is a momentous opportunity for accountability and transparency to return to the rubric of governance. That sounds like a whole bunch of crap. He wholeheartedly supports
Yep.
Representative Tlaib's efforts, and as should we all. Well, okay, great. He is thankful for the support that he's received through the Project for Accountability. It helped him find a purpose that he didn't know he needed. Over the years, he'd been speaking and writing on behalf of whistleblowers and decrying the Espionage Act as a tool of revenge. Assange's extradition will be a pinnacle moment for accountability. The U.S. must be called out on its vendetta against Assange and whistleblowers in general. The media and an entire government have refused to make that call, but he will not. And I appreciate that. He's been where Assange is going. He does not wish that on anyone, including the prosecutors that wrongfully tried him and the jury that wrongfully convicted him. So, this is who Jeffrey Sterling is. He's a former CIA case officer himself. So, again, taking all of this, and what did he do with the agency, including the Iran task force for nearly a decade? He filed an employment discrimination suit against CIA, but the case was dismissed as threat to national security. 2.5 years he served in prison for being convicted of violating the Espionage Act. No incriminating evidence was produced at trial, and Sterling continues to profess his innocence. His memoir, Unwanted Spy, The Persecution of an American Whistleblower, was published in late 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Free Julian Assange, free Julian Assange, free Julian Assange. Stasevich 24, yes, Eric. I actually
have
have
the CIA.